Every February, we recognize Black History Month, a national celebration of the history and achievements of Black Americans. What a great opportunity to learn more about Black history and culture, the pioneers, the history makers, those who dared to be first in so many ways, forerunners who led the charge in their actions and words, and the everyday heroes who fought for freedom and equality in ways both big and small. And speaking of remarkable people, I could not be more excited to introduce Dr. Harry Robinson, Founding Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Dallas African American Museum. The Dallas African American Museum was founded in 1974 in a small room in Bishop College's Zale Library, where Dr. Robinson was the chief librarian. And for more than 40 years, Dr. Robinson has served as the museum's only director and chief executive officer, overseeing its tremendous growth and success and positively impacting the lives of so many in our community. We are truly honored to bring this discussion and private tour to you today, and we hope you'll have the opportunity to visit the museum in person at some point in the near future. Thank you so much for joining us, and please enjoy the discussion.
Dr. Robinson, give us a little bit of an idea of what we can expect walking through the doors of the African American Museum. What are we in for?
Well, first thing, you walk into a fantastic building. The building is a piece of art itself. Our architect, Art Rogers, did a lot of research, and we wanted this building to have an African motif. So you see that motif carried out throughout the building. The shape of the galleries, the entrance, the windows, and what have you. And what we tried to do was to have the interior to look as much as possible as pre-industrialized Africa. So you see wood, you see the figures in the building that represent pre-industrialized Africa, even with the tile in the floor. And the ceilings is made of East Texas pine. And you walk around, you see a lot of wood. You don't see a lot of stone. This room contains the two collections that set us apart from all of the other African American museums. We have the largest collection of African American folk art of any African American museum in the country. 95% of this collection was donated to us. Then we have the decorative arts collection. Now those pieces go back to 1824. And then you see the furniture in here, and we're getting to the point about what's my favorite piece in the whole collection. And my favorite piece is that day bed that was done by Thomas Day, the free man of color, and he did pieces for 3 governors' mansion in North Carolina, and there are some pieces that he did at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. The only institution that has more pieces of Thomas Day's works is the North Carolina State Museum. So we have 5 pieces of his works here.
Tell us what we're seeing here.
This is a coverlet that was done by a 16-year-old slave girl whose name was Sarah May. And you can see here where she embroidered her name up here, Sarah May, and it was in 1824.
Tell me about the owl.
Okay, this piece here was done by Isaac Smith, who was a local wood carver. And at one time we had about 5 wood carvers in town. But Isaac Smith was the most prolific. Now, what is interesting about these pieces is that each one of these pieces was done out of one piece of wood.
Is there something in the museum that is not here that you've always wished
you
could get your hands on?
Yes. Last couple of months, we were able to get some pieces that I never thought we were able to get during my tenure here. It's some pottery. One of our friends who is a ceramicist or ceramist came by to see me about 6 months ago. She said, I know somebody who might be able to help you. I said, oh. So she gave me the name of a guy down in Central Texas And so I told him, I said, well, you know, to round out our collection, I really have got to find a way to get a piece of Dave the Drake the Potter from South Carolina. He sat and let me talk, let me talk. And he said, well, I have a piece of, you what? He said, I have a piece of that Potter. I said, well, you know, we need to work out something here. He said, well, we might be able to work out something. So then we agreed that he would settle that piece to us. So I made arrangements to go down and get the piece. But before I went to see him, he sent me a news article where one of Dave the Potter's piece was going on auction. It had been at the Atlanta History Center for about 15 years. It was appraised at $300,000 or $600,000. It was going on auction, and the floor was $450,000. So I just watched to see what was going to happen. And by the time we went to him to pick up the pieces that we had gotten, it had sold for $1.5 million. And that's the highest amount that's ever been paid for a piece of ceramic in the country. So we have a small piece of David Potter in our collection.
So many 7-Eleven team members and organizations like 7-Eleven want to enjoy, want to support, want to experience. How can they do that with all the great benefits the museum has to offer?
Well, we do not charge admission. We're looking at that in the future because we wanted to make the museum as accessible as possible to people. And the community, particularly the African American community, just looks at this piece as the museum as a source of pride. What we're doing with this community engagement committee, we're doing the SWOT stuff, you know, what you like, what you don't like, what would you like to see in the museum. We had a meeting with a group of young professionals, African American males, and one of the members wanted to see was an exhibition of Deep Ellum. So we have engaged a curator who has done a lot of research to come up with an exhibition that we're going to open in 2023.
You are a wealth of knowledge. You care passionately about preserving and chronicling the African American experience. You've done so much for our city and for this museum, but I'm sure you were met with trials and tribulations along the way.
My dad never went to school a day in his life. My mother was a third grader. I always tell folks when they say, oh, this is, you're Dr. Robinson? I say, I'm Harry Robinson Jr. My dad's name is the most important thing I have. And I tell everybody, my dad didn't go to school. He couldn't read or write. But I want to be just like my daddy, and I want a double portion of my old man. Because he was, to me, he was a model figure. He worked until he was 80-some years old. And I can tell you a lot of things about my dad, but two things that always stick with me. One, he treated everybody fairly, he respected everybody, and he demanded that you respect him as a man. And so when certain things come out of me, you know, I think of, oh man, what my old man would have done with this. And I think of my mother, who was a third grader, but everything was black or white with her. It wasn't anything gray. It was right or wrong. And as I have had to make decisions over the years, I would think, what would Mother say? She had the accent. And she would say, boy, that ain't right, no. Or don't do that, no. And when I have to make decisions, and I've made I think of what would Mother say about this?
I want to shift gears for a moment because I want to get to some civil rights focused questions and talk about the civil rights issues that are most concerning for you personally and what you're thinking about the state of civic affairs right now and today.
The issue of voting rights. We have seen results of being able to vote that we would not have seen before. And we have seen how having someone at the table or having people represent these various constituencies have made a difference. Atlanta is a prime example. Maynard Jackson, by the way, who was born in Dallas, became the first black mayor of Atlanta. And one of the things he dealt with was economic development. And because he was the mayor and he had enough people on his council, it made all of the difference in the world. We cannot have the kind of impact on things that happen in a city or in Dallas unless you have people who are in position that represent your interests. And the only way you're going to get that is to have a vote. And if you have people voting, people listen to voters. And so to me, that's one of the most important, to me, it's the most important issue.
So Dr. Robinson, for 7-Eleven team members that are watching, maybe they're in the infancy of their career and would love advice about perseverance because that's something you have first-handed experienced and thrived. Maybe someone who's watching has been in their career a long time and needs that reminder of collaboration, dealing with different personalities. What could you give them as a piece of advice?
Well, perseverance has been the history of African American. And W.E.B. Du Bois, the great philosopher, sociologist, and historian, said, no other race could have experienced or survived what we have experienced in this country. And what we try to do here at the museum and with people who come to us for the first time is we present the challenges, but we also hope that by coming here, they will be inspired because they saw the challenges that we had and we've overcome some of them, not all of them, but we've seen a lot of progress, and it's because people have persevered and a group of people have persevered over the years. And we are hoping that when people come here, we talk about the museum being a transformation center. And that is, if you come in here, you get new information. And with that new information, you get a different attitude. And once you get a different attitude, then your behavior becomes different. So it's done in stages here. So we provide information to people. And we've had some experiences here that gets our attention. For instance, in that Facing the Rising Sun exhibition up there, when we first opened, we had that Klan uniform you see up there. And a woman came in here and she was so moved that she ripped it apart. Now, we don't want folks coming here ripping up stuff, but we saw what that did to her emotionally, so we put the piece on the plexiglass. But we want people to be moved. We want the kids to be challenged. Look, we want the kids to see, look, if Booker T. Washington was able to do this, or so-and-so, Amy So Smith was doing that, when the law was not on his side, and we have everything going for us, different educational experience, better educational experience, all kinds of opportunities, we ought to be able to do more. And what we're trying to do is to make them understand that they have an obligation to do more. They have to leave this place better than it was when they started. And, you know, people ask me, say, well, why is it you keep doing what you're doing? And I think of something that Benjamin Mays, who was the legendary president of Morehouse College, and he mentored Martin King. And he told us once, he said, some people are called by God to do things unique, so unique that if they don't do them, they never get done. And some of us feel that we have a calling to do this. It's our assignment, and we have to get it done. And we're hoping that there are other people who will come in and will see something where Maceo did this, so-and-so did this, and we hope they will grab hold of something and say, I have to do this. I have to get this done.
Dr. Robinson, you've been so gracious, inviting us into your home, really, right? On behalf of 7-Eleven, we didn't want to go away empty-handed. We wanted to make sure we thanked you properly. And Larry is with us, and he has a presentation and a surprise. So I'm going to invite Larry in to stand next to you here.
Dr. Robinson, thank you so much for your hospitality today, for sharing your insights. And Team 7-Eleven and our family of brands, we wanted to make a pledge on behalf of our organization to the African American Museum of Dallas in the amount of $20,000.
Oh.
And I wanted to,
Whoa.
this is a pledge letter from our social responsibility team that spells that out, and we just thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, thank you. With your permission, what I will do is designate this for that Dave the Potter piece. So whenever someone come here, they will always see that 7-Eleven purchased this
Oh,
piece
how wonderful.
of art.
How wonderful.
And let them eat their hearts out. Oh, this is great.
Well, thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, my God. This is great.